non-governmental leader, and Sam is a person of ideas. Moreover, he's a person who is realizing his ideas, and he is not ashamed to involve everybody in his network. He starts with Barack Obama, and will finish with each of you here in this room. He has an impressive he had an impressive meeting with President Obama, and succeeded indeed to involve the President of the United States of America into his deliberations. And now he's working as part of the team of the President of the United States. And we're very pleased that we have an exclusive privilege to host Sam for a few days here in Bulgaria. I would like to extend our warmest thanks to Vlada Todorova and to the Embassy of the United States of America, and in this concrete case to the American Corner, who is our regular host, and to each of you for sacrificing your unforgettable evening for one unforgettable lecture tonight. And also I want to underline that Sam was selected for 2012 among the top 99 most influential foreign policy leaders under the age of 33. It means 2012 he was under 33.
And then I went downhill.
Now he will have the same ranking among his new age trader. And all this is something which was done by the diplomatic courier and the young professionals in foreign policy. But I would like to save the rest of my presentation and to hand the mic to Sam, who will tell you what he is planning to tell. And after that, we shall have a short Q&A. And after that, we shall have some wine and water. And because we are under certain regulations here, we have to be we shouldn't delay our time, we should lose our time, and we are supposed to quit this place at 8:30. So until 8:30, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Well, it's a tremendous honor to be with you here in the American Corner. And these last 2 days have been really quite profound for me personally. Yesterday at the launch of the Summer Work and Travel Alumni Association, which, congratulations, that was a hugely successful event. And then this morning at the Startup Next conference, which was the most tech-savvy event I've ever been to anywhere in the world, honestly. My mind was blown just by they gave me one of these, headsets and the whole setup. It was a bit ridiculous, but amazing all at the same time. So for me, it's a tremendous honor to be here in Bulgaria for the first time in my life, definitely not the last. And I actually I'm never brief, but I'm gonna try and keep my remarks limited and provide the space to maybe delve into some of the things that matter to all of you. If you're involved with Summer Work and Travel, maybe we can talk about the mechanics of the Alumni Association and the growth of that in the next few months and years. And I've been a part of alumni associations in the States, and there's some best practices that I've seen that are always, I think, relevant to share. But I'll start with my story, because I think that's the best place to start. It's a place of authenticity. And so first, I did this exercise this morning, so I'm sorry to be a little bit repetitive, but I love this exercise. An entrepreneur named Ryan Alice taught it to me, and so now I'm passing it on to you. So there's a simple exercise. I want you to close your eyes. Imagine that you're 85 years old and you're sitting on a rocking chair by a beautiful beach, and there's a 5-year-old sitting in the chair next to you. I want you to give that 5-year-old a name. And that 5-year-old looks over at you lovingly and says, "Wow, you're quite old. What did you accomplish in your life? What gave your life meaning?" Which, those are pretty profound questions for a 5-year-old to ask. This is a pretty smart 5-year-old. And the 5-year-old jumps into your lap and looks up into your eyes, and you reflect on that for a moment. What did I accomplish? What gave my life meaning? And when you're ready, you look back at the 5-year-old and you said, "I accomplished blank." Once you have what you would share, I want you to open your eyes and turn to the person next to you and just take 30 to 45 seconds each, or in some cases maybe it's 3 of you, just take 30 to 45 seconds each and share. Share what gives your life purpose. Go ahead.
Горе, по-добре с микрофон.
Just take another 30 seconds to finish up. Okay. So I'd love to hear from just a couple of you. What did you share?
Well, it's a simple and kind of a selfish one. I think he's looking for something more meaningful, but I'm looking forward to visiting at least half of the countries in the world. So that will make 100 countries.
Brilliant, thank you. And someone else?
Family.
Family? Can you maybe elaborate on that a little bit?
I think that the only thing that matters and stays after us is the things that we got our to, and then they learn something from it and they pass to their children and then their children.
Right. Someone else?
Educating others.
Educating others. Is there anyone specific that you're hoping to educate?
I'm a teacher, there's educate all the time.
Excellent. Thank you, and thanks for what you do. I think that question is fundamental because it's funny. I travel all over the world and facilitate and curate, and I'm a part of different conversations. And so often people just want to hear something technical. You know, it's like, yeah, how do you build a business and how do you scale it? And all that's great, but if you don't have the purpose behind it, none of that matters. If you don't have the values that underpin it, none of that matters. And so the first big question for all of us as human beings is, why are we here? What is our purpose? What moves us? And what gives our life meaning, so that 50, 60, 70 years from now, when we look back, we live the life of congruence. Somebody taught me that phrase. I thought it was so fitting. To live a life of congruence, meaning you take actions that are aligned with the values that you have, that you believe in. You pick a profession that aligns with what you want to see in the world. And so for me, that's in large part why I am a social entrepreneur. Because social entrepreneurship is about using business techniques to solve social problems, societal problems in the world. And so for me, I can think of nothing better to do with my time, even though it probably won't make me a millionaire or multimillionaire. That's okay. There are plenty of others doing that in the US and around the world, and that's great. But I'm much more passionate about thinking about the big problems in our world and what we can do individually and collectively. And my hope is that, yes, by the end of tonight, I'll be working with a number of you in a number of different ways. So with that question in mind, I want to share my story. And a couple of you have already heard it, so just indulge me. I'm sorry that you have to hear it twice, but hopefully it's a little bit inspiring. So I grew up in the great city of Boston, Massachusetts. Have any of you been to Massachusetts? Wow. Okay. So I grew up in Boston, and in high school I was incredibly shy. Meaning, when I say incredibly shy, I had 2 friends my entire time in high school. You have a prom here in Bulgaria, you have prom in America. Well, I only had 1 date all 4 years of high school, and it was a blind date for senior prom. I was too afraid to even call and ask someone, so my friends had to do it for me. That was my high school experience. I really didn't enjoy school. I didn't enjoy my education. I didn't really value it all that much because I was always wanting to do something creative. And I didn't want to just regurgitate facts over and over again. And I don't know, perhaps as an educator, you would value that perspective, but that was my childhood experience. And in the United States, we have more than 4,400 colleges and universities. A number of them are nonprofit, most, and then there are some more and more so now for-profit universities as well. I applied to 17. I applied to 17 colleges and universities, and most of them rejected me. So I had no friends. Well, I had 2, and they were great, but 2 friends, 1 date, and a bunch of rejection letters. So if you're smart and you're sitting here right now, you're thinking, why did the United States of America send me? You could be listening to somebody much more successful. And yeah, I mean, that's actually, frankly, a good thought. But my life changed in a really fundamental way when I was 18 years old. and it happened in a couple of key moments that I want to share with you. When I was 18, I did get in off the wait list, barely, to Brandeis University, which is right outside of Boston. And in high school, I was incredibly shy. So at university, I figured, I can't go through another 4 years of this. So it was honestly purely out of desperation that I said, I'm going to try to do something different. And so what did I do? Well, in high school, I was incredibly shy. At university, the first thing I did, I reached out and I said, hi, how are you? Good, thanks. How are you? How are you? That simple act of actually connecting with people changed my life. In high school, I ran for student government, student body president every single year. And I lost every single year. And at university, I ran and won every single year. I was the exact same person. The exact same person. The only thing that was different was that I was willing to reach out of my comfort zone. That's it. And so I spent the first semester of university partying and having a great time. I'm looking forward to the wine. That's exciting. So that was my first semester at university. It was just a great time, a party. And then I read 2 books that changed my life, that made me sit back and think about the world that we live in and my place in it. The first book, and I recommend this book to everybody. The book is called Mountains Beyond Mountains. And it's about the work of Dr. Paul Farmer and an organization called Partners in Health. Have any of you heard of this book? No. I hope that you all read it and share it, and that it becomes a bestseller in Bulgaria, because honestly, there's no better story of social entrepreneurship that I've seen in my 29 years on this planet. When Paul was 23 years old, he left Harvard University. He went down to Haiti as a practitioner, as a doctor. And he actually stole medical supplies from Harvard, brought them down to Haiti to do this work. And now, 25 plus years later, he's working in 9 countries around the world with his organization on the cutting edge of global health. Most recently, addressing the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. And so, Paul's co-founder, Jim Kim, is now the president of the World Bank. This small little NGO, this small startup of an idea from a couple of social entrepreneurs, has completely transformed the world of global health. Completely transformed it. And you can read the story in Mountains Beyond Mountains. I honestly can't stress that enough. Maybe that's my biggest takeaway that I would give you. The other book that I read was The End of Poverty by the economist Jeffrey Sachs. Okay, a couple of you. So, what struck me about the book was Jeff, special advisor to the Secretary General of the United Nations on the Millennium Development Goals, which were 8 goals that the UN passed in 2000 to cut extreme poverty in half by the year 2015, this year. And what I loved about this book, I still remember vividly page 386. What Jeff did was, at the end of the book, he had a blueprint for action, what we could do as individual citizens and as society to address poverty around the world. And honestly, now having done this work for 10 years, it's much more complicated than what the book suggests, but the book was an introduction. It served as an introduction for me to these issues. The fact that 62 million young women, for everyone here, but especially all the women here, 62 million girls who lack access to education, simply lack access. This is a reality, a daily reality right now. Issues of sexism and race relations, racism and homophobia, and you name it. So many groups that are very intentionally marginalized. This is what the book inspired in me, to start thinking about some of these global issues. And so at 19 years old, I finished that book, and I put down the book, and I picked up my phone, and I cold called this world-famous economist, Jeffrey Sachs. 2 days later, I went down to Columbia University in New York, and I met with his team, and I said, look, I'm 19 years old, I'm a sophomore in university, I know I don't have many of the answers, if any, but I know our generation has a big role to play in addressing poverty in the world. And I want to figure out what that role could be, what that could potentially be. Well, we came back to Brandeis, we started fundraising, mobilizing students. 6 months later, we had our first Millennium Campus Conference at MIT. 1,000 student leaders showed up from all over the world. Paul Farmer, Jeff Sachs, have you all heard of a singer called John Legend? John Legend, the head of USAID, all these global leaders participate, and Jeff, Paul, and John joined our board of advisors. And that was the beginning of the Millennium Campus Network. We've now been doing this work 8 years. It has been a really emotional journey. It's a roller coaster ride. Just before here, honestly, like half an hour ago, I was getting an email from our board chair about different responsibilities, and if he's watching this, I'll get to the work, I promise. But honestly, it's there's always more to do. And in social entrepreneurship especially, you wear so many hats because there's never enough funding, there's never enough staff, there's always more to be done, the problems feel overwhelming. And so you can easily kind of sit back and say, well, why bother at all? But for me, it became so clear at such a young age, at 19, that this is exactly what we were meant to be doing. We were called to do this work. And so we started, and it's grown nationally, now globally. What we do at MCN is talent development for the international development sector on university campuses. So we identify students who are passionate about having meaningful impact in community. We train them to be more humble, more empathetic, and results-driven. And then we provide career support to help them take their next professional step in the sector beyond graduation. Because one of the biggest points of frustration for me, in every country I go to, you meet incredible young entrepreneurs and visionary young people who are the best and brightest and can't get employed. And I was just in Macedonia doing a very similar program. In Macedonia, many of you probably know, the youth unemployment rate is over 50%. And just being there and talking to young people, I asked a group of people, I said, there's about 100 people, how many of you want to stay in Macedonia when you graduate? 2 hands went up. How many of you want to leave? 98 hands went up. Literally, the whole room said, we want out. And it's not just a challenge in Macedonia, it's a challenge all over the world to varying degrees, and even in the United States. A lot of young people who want to have social impact, and millennials are known for wanting to have social impact, don't see a viable path. There's no clear talent pipeline. If you want to go and work on Wall Street or you want to go make a lot of money, yeah, there's a path. It's pretty clear. If you want to go make a difference right away in the world, no, it's very unclear. And we need to change that dynamic. And so for us, we're building up that talent pipeline. And the biggest impact, what I love about the students that we work with, is that they're entrepreneurial. They're using their own assets, their genius for good, and they're having real impact. So much so that this year alone, I can tell you that we're working with 12,339 community members all over the world. From water solutions in Nicaragua to mobile health programs in Zambia. And so, for instance, with the project in Zambia, it's a group of students from Boston University, the Global App Initiative. They came up with a mobile app to identify hotspots for where to place antennas for mobile health in Zambia. I guarantee you those young people could have taken their skills and said, I want to go make a ton of money. I want to just be filthy rich. And that'd be great. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? They're doing something that I think is even more innovative and is changing lives now. And they're doing it at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. I think that's an inspiring story that needs to be told again and again and again. And so that's the work that the students are doing. The one other story I'll share is this young woman who you should all look her up on Twitter, Google her. Her name is Nisha McCray. Nisha McCray, M-C-C-R-A-Y. M-C-C-R-A-Y. Nisha is a 2014 graduate of MIT. She is absolutely brilliant. She had job offers from Facebook and Google, but you know something? She turned those job offers down. And the reason why is because she had an idea. And she came to our conference, she gained inspiration, gained a mentor. And the way our program works is we have a conference on the front end of the year, and we have a fellowship program that runs during the academic year. Twice a month, the student leaders meet. So she went through this fellowship, built out her business plan, built out her executive board, and as a result, leveraged $7,000 in funding from our partners, continued on this work. She's now teaching design thinking to 12 to 16-year-olds in Cape Town, South Africa. And the way she's doing it, you know design, you all know what design thinking is? Do you know, like, did you play with Legos growing up? Okay, so that's basically a very fun way to learn design thinking. And so what she did is she created a solar-powered USB charger for mobile devices. The solar-powered USB charger, the charger phone, it takes 1 hour to build. And so she brings this to the teens, they build, and then they bring their own ideas to a pitch competition. And the goal is actually to take some of those ideas of the teens out into the marketplace. And in a country like South Africa, where youth unemployment is a huge issue, to tap into young people's entrepreneurial abilities is so fundamental. That's exactly what Nisha's doing every day. Those are the young leaders that we're supporting. And it's been an incredible journey. Maybe during Q&A I can tell you stories of how we got our first grant from the United Nations and how we hustled. We're hustlers all the way through and through, always finding the connections, always thinking about how do we move this forward. But I don't think social entrepreneurship is really just about success in dollars and cents. In social entrepreneurship, they say it's about the triple bottom line of profit, people, and planet. But I think even more than that, it's about values. It's about who you are as people. And if you don't get that part right, then none of the rest matters. And so for me, what was fundamental was being 18 years old. And this is the moment, even more so than reading books, the moment that my life changed was when I took what I learned in books and applied it in the real world. When I was 18 years old, I was walking along a street in Washington, D.C. And I came across a man who was homeless. Now, the man's homeless, and normally, what do you do when you see someone who's homeless? What do you do? Keep walking.
Or give us some phones or food.
That's awesome. Most people in that moment, including me, come up to the person or look right past the person. I'm not even going to acknowledge that you're here. And you're asking me for something, I don't even care. Forget it. That's what most people do, including me. I'm so bad that I oftentimes pretend I have a call to take if I'm not talking to someone, just so I can look past the person and ignore them. Well, why do we do that? If we care about society, if we care about the world, and don't pretend that we're all so busy that we can't engage for 5 minutes. Most of us can make the time. But we make excuses. We say, well, the perception is people who are homeless are a drain on society, they're lazy, they've missed opportunities, they're hurting our community. It's absurd. And I'll tell you why. Because when I was 18, I chose to do one simple act that changed my life forever. And that one act was this. Instead of walking by, instead of ignoring you like every other time, I sat down. And we shared lunch for 45 minutes on the street corner in the bitter cold in Washington, D.C. in January. And for 45 minutes, we connected. And about 20 minutes into the conversation, I asked you, I said, look, I'm from Boston. I came from a family with resources. I never would understand what it's like to live in poverty. I don't know. So I'm hoping you can answer this question. I said, how do you survive? And you looked back at me, and you looked up at all the passersby, and you said, I'm not afraid to talk to anyone. I'm not afraid to look up at those above me and ask for help. Never be afraid to talk to anyone. Never be afraid to talk to anyone. It's the single best piece of advice that I've received in 29 years on this planet. It's changed my whole perception. Remember, I was the guy, the shy kid growing up. And here's this man who's homeless, who society would tell you can offer me nothing. Nothing. And in fact, he told me and taught me more than anybody. More than world leaders, more than professors, more than anyone. Why? Because I didn't spend every day just sitting in a classroom, as important as it is to go to class. But I actually got out there and met people in real life and actually touched them and said, hey, and gave them a high five and connected. And that was the moment that my life changed. And so I took that advice when I was 18 years old, never be afraid to talk to anyone. And I applied it. And I applied it in a very specific way. We were building out our NGO. And in 2010, I was in Miami. I was at a conference. And there was an actor there, an American actor named Cal Penn. Have any of you seen the movie The Namesake? Okay. Have any of you seen the movie Harold and Kumar?
Yeah.
It's really sad that that's the reference that I have to. Okay. So Harold and Kumar. So Cal is Kumar. Okay. So Cal Penn is Kumar in that movie. Yeah. For those of you who haven't seen it, I don't even want to try and explain what it is. But so Cal is there, and everyone is too afraid to go talk to Cal. Okay, I get it. He's kind of a big deal, and so everyone's kind of too afraid. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, I learned this fundamental lesson. Never be afraid to talk to anyone. Now I need to apply it. So imagine if you're Cal Penn, okay? And so if you stand up for a moment, and yeah.
Sure.
No, I'm gonna ask her to do something in a second. And Cal Penn also had a bodyguard. So yeah, exactly like this. And so look, everyone's like, oh, it's Cal. Oh, I can't go say hi. I'm scared. This is a big deal. But never be afraid to talk to anyone. Come on, this is my moment, right? So muster up the courage, and I go up to say hi. And the bodyguard's giving me some, pushback, but I seem nice enough, right? I hope. Okay, so the bodyguard's still giving me a look, but I'm gonna keep going. And I said, hi, I'm Sam from Boston. How are you? Pleasure to meet you. And honestly, it was as simple as that. And the perception was, well, it's a Hollywood celebrity, they're never going to talk to me, some 20-year-old. Or at this point, no, I was a couple years old. But they're never going to talk to me. And you know what happened? I said, well, Cal, I'm Sam Vaghar from Boston, Massachusetts. And I'm heading an organization called Millennium Campus Network. And we are mobilizing students all over the country and world to tackle poverty. And I would love to connect further with you on it. Yeah? Cool. Thank you. Please give Cal a round of applause. And the bodyguard. So, here's what happened. Cal Penn had actually left Hollywood at this time to work in the White House for President Obama on youth engagement. And Cal said to me, you know what? Why don't you come to the White House and meet? And I said, well, you know what? I'm a pretty busy person. I don't think I have time for that, but I really appreciate the thought. No, I was like, of course I'm coming. So in this moment, Cal gives me his card and says, yes, come to the White House in 2 weeks. I booked my plane tickets that night, and 2 weeks later I was there. Now, a couple of key tips that I learned as a social entrepreneur that I always like to pass along. I think they're important. One, if you get somebody's business card, if you get a connection, an email, anything, follow up within 24 hours. Follow up within 24 hours. If you don't, the magic is gone. Like in this moment, we had a moment. I just connected with you, I connected with you, we had a moment. And anyone who wants to connect with me, I'll give you my card gladly, willingly. But my one ask is to follow up within 24 hours. Because if you wait a month to follow up, a month from now, you've met hundreds of other people, I've met hundreds of other people, we've both kind of moved on. So that's just the reality. And so the first thing I did was I followed up right away. And the second piece of advice as an entrepreneur that I learned was actually from a partner of ours called the Cordis Foundation. And they shared this. For anyone, if you're an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, it's all about the money, right? You need revenue, you need sales, you need investors. If you're a social entrepreneur, you need a lot of those things, plus you need philanthropic capital, you need donations. And so a lot of times it feels like if you're an entrepreneur or a social entrepreneur, or you're asking help from friends or family or whatever, it feels like this. It feels like I'm on my knees being like, please, please, would you just give me just a little bit? Can you help us out? Please, can you help us? It would mean so much to us. Please, please, please. Do you think that works? No, it doesn't work. And so what I did was I took another piece of advice that Ron Cordis of the Cordis Foundation taught me. And that piece of advice is this. There's one question, it's a fundamental question you can ask in any meeting, in any business meeting, even in a personal meeting, that will completely change the dynamic, that will completely equalize the two parties in the room. Do you know what that question is? And you can't say it because you already heard it. Do you know what that question is? One question you would ask to completely change the dynamic of a meeting. Someone be brave and just throw out a question. It doesn't matter if it's the right one. There is no right answer, by the way.
What can I do for you?
Wow. Did you come to one of my other lectures, or that's okay? Well, that's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you.
So that was the question?
Yeah. So we phrase it just slightly differently in 5 words, but that's basically it. How can I help you? Yeah, you got it. And that question is so profound. It's so important because when you ask that question, instead of it all being a one-way relationship where it's like, hey, I need from you, you're offering something. And I think especially as young people, we often feel like, well, we don't have the expertise or the connections or whatever, we need your help, please, please, please. And it's the wrong frame. And it's the wrong frame because actually as young people, we have a lot to offer. We have incredible dynamism, we have big ideas, and if you think about most of the world's marketing firms today are marketing tools, they want our connections, our money, our ideas. And the perfect case in point of why it's important, you think about, and I always reference this, you can find it on Google, it's from the Harvard Crimson, so the school newspaper of Harvard University. February 9th, 2004, there was an article in the Harvard Crimson. And the head of campus residential IT at Harvard, so a member of the staff said, well, there's a student who has this idea, but, frankly, we're working on it internally here as an institution, so I don't really know why he's trying to do this. We're going to have it up, have this developed on our own in the next month. You know what idea I'm talking about? Facebook. And in that same article, you can go find it on Google, what Mark Zuckerberg says is, I can build the Facebook better than Harvard University can, and I can do it in a week. And he did. And because he did, how many of you are on Facebook, by show of hands? And because he did, after tonight, we can all stay connected. Because he didn't listen to people who said, well, young people don't have anything to contribute, they're still learning, they need to mature. It's ridiculous. And he proved it. And because he proved it, I'm going to be friends with a lot of you for many, many years. That's the power of believing in ideas that you have as young people. And again, always asking that question, how can I help you? And maybe 9 times out of 10, you can't. Maybe I don't need anything from you. But they appreciate that you ask the question. And just showing that you actually care and value the person, not just their money or their connections, changes the relationship every single time that I've asked that question. So for 9 months, I asked you, Cal Penn, I said to Cal, how can I help you? And every time I asked this question to you, how can I help you? For 9 months in a row, you said, no, wrong answer. You said to me, every single month, for 9 months in a row, no, no, no. No, over and over and over again. You say, no, I'm good. We're good at the White House. We've got things figured out. Well, in month 10, you said yes. And here's what was happening at the White House. They were leading an initiative called White House Youth Roundtables. They wanted to know what young Americans cared about. So we mobilized students across our network to meet in meetings, honestly, very much like this, to talk about the issues that we cared most about. In this case, really affirming the value of America's presence, positive presence in the world with programs like the Peace Corps and USAID and volunteer efforts. And we really made the case for all of this in these meetings. And a month later, you called me back and you said, hey, Sam, would you like to come for a debrief meeting at the White House to talk about what we all learned? I said, sure. So a month later, we go in. Have any of you been to the White House? Excellent. Have you been in the West Wing? No. So have any of you seen the show, The West Wing? Awesome. So what shocked me about being in the White House and being in the West Wing was it is incredibly small, really small. And there were only 10 of us, 10 national youth leaders from across the United States talking about the big issues of our time. We go in, and right as we walk in, President Obama walks by. And he says, hey, how's it going? And we're like, wow, it's good. I don't know. I didn't know what to say. And he walks by, and then President Obama's energy secretary walks by, like the cabinet is all hanging out here, and we're like, what is going on here? And we see Cal, and Cal waves at us, and invites us into a small room. And the room is the Roosevelt room in the West Wing of the White House. And it's just one small room with one table, basically like the size of this table. And we all convened, and here's who was there. Cal Penn was there, and Valerie Jarrett was there, and Valerie Jarrett is President Obama's senior advisor, and us. And we start talking about the power of young people and our different programs, and talk about issues from climate change to business regulations to entrepreneurship to poverty alleviation in the world to LGBT rights to race relations in America. We go down a list, all the major issues that young people care about, we talk about. And about halfway through the meeting, Cal, you said, I have to go, but I'll be back in 5 minutes. So you left. And 5 minutes later, we're all sitting there. And you see this bookshelf right here, right? It's just a bookshelf, right? Right? I want you to imagine that this bookshelf just opens up, and there's a secret door in this bookshelf. So it opens up, and in comes who? Who? Bo Obama, the dog, comes bounding in. And we're like, what is going on? There's this dog coming in, what's going on? And right behind the dog, in comes Barack Obama. And he says, hi, I'm Barack Obama. And we're like, yeah, we know who you are. And so I'll call on you to be president again. She did this for me this morning as well. I was really good at it. So the president walks into the room.
Can I have a dog?
Yeah, and the dog comes in too. And so I know one other tip as an entrepreneur. Any meeting that you walk into, it doesn't matter big or small, whatever, have intentionality. Know what you want out of the meeting. Have an agenda. Have a game plan. That's fundamental. So for me, I knew that. I came prepared. We had handwritten notes for the president and the first lady, inviting them to get involved in our work. So the president goes around to shake everybody's hand, and I'm ready. So the president comes over, and I say, hi, I'm Sam Vaghar from Boston.
Hi, Sam. Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you. And in this moment, I knew I had to be prepared. So I pull out these notes, and I put them in your left hand, and you said,
Wow, thank you very much. That's impressive.
and she actually got this wrong this morning too, and you did it again. That's great. No, I wish that was what he said. What he said, honestly, what you said in the moment was, what a couple nuts. He was kind of like, yeah, like that. Thank you. That's better. Round of applause for the president. And probably Secret Service hated me, honestly. Handing notes to the president is probably not the best move. But I didn't care, because this is our opportunity, and we have it right here, right now. And so we connected, give you the notes, and we sat down. Literally, it was one table apart, so it was literally as far apart as we are now. And the president talks to us for about 10, 15 minutes about the power of young people, about why it's so important to get involved when you're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, in your teens, in your 20s, in your 30s, in your 40s, not to wait until you're in your 80s or 90s to give back, but to start now. And it was really profound. And then you said something else. You said, you know what, maybe one day you'll be sitting on this side of the table. That was a really powerful statement, meaning one day maybe we as young people will be in positions of power and influence. And so we were really moved. And thank you for saying that. And so the president is sharing all this, and about 15 minutes in, you can tell the president's getting ready to go. It's like, thank you, and you know what he does. It's kind of like it's his time. And I get it, you've got a lot going on, you got a lot of meetings, you're a busy person, I understand. But I had to make an impression. I had to make the most of the opportunity, because you never know how many opportunities you're going to get. You have to take them when they come. And so the president's wrapping up saying, thank you. What would you do in that situation? What do you think I did? Thank you? I did thank him. Well, I'll tell you what I did. I had to do something to get his attention, and I could tell he was about to leave. The president has a lot on your very busy agenda. So, I did the one thing that came to mind. I raised my hand. And by doing this, you couldn't ignore me. And everybody sees, you see how all of you are looking at this hand. That's exactly what happened in the room. Everybody looked at my hand. And if you go on my Twitter page, @SamVaghar, or my Facebook, and you connect with me there, or LinkedIn, or whatever, you'll see the photo. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about, of just us being around the table. But I put my hand up, and because we were sitting right across from each other, it would be rude if you didn't call on me. So I really forced the president to call on me. So the president says, thank you, sees me and says, okay, yeah, Sam, go ahead. I said, well, thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, your leadership is a bold statement. And what I meant by that was, regardless of your politics, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you name it, Doesn't matter, it's not the point. The point is, when I was 5 years old, sitting on that rocking chair, if you had told me that a man named Barack Hussein Obama would be president of the United States of America, I would not have believed you. And quite frankly, very few people would have believed you. But he did it. So I told him, your leadership is a bold statement. And the second thing I said was, we'd love to invite you to get involved in the work we're doing, as I shared with you in the notes I handed to you. And everyone laughs at me. Everyone at Cal, you laugh, everyone laughs and says, they're laughing because I'm pitching the President of the United States of America in front of the whole room. But I didn't care. And the reason I didn't care was because of the piece of advice that somebody gave me a couple years prior. And what was that advice? So I used the advice. That's all. It's that simple. It didn't matter if it's someone who's homeless or the President of the United States of America. Never be afraid to talk to anyone. We're all human beings. We all have value. So we connect. And of course, right after I do this, every other hand shoots up. Everybody's got something. Oh, me, of course. But you know something, in entrepreneurship, the hardest part is going first. In investing, the hardest part is going first. No one wants to be first. No one wants to be first. It's scary, because you don't know if it's going to work. But you know the funny thing is, when one person jumps in, then all of a sudden everyone else says, oh yeah, that looks good, I'm into. And I've had that experience. And it's funny because the same people who said no suddenly say yes. And it's like a couple months later, it's not like the project has changed so radically. They just suddenly say yes because they see somebody else believed in you too. That's entrepreneurship. And for any of you who are going to be entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs, just expect that you're going to hear a lot of no's and very few yeses. But that's part of the process. And it's worth it when a yes does happen. And in this case, a month later, I got a call from the State Department. And they said, hey, would you like to share your story with young entrepreneurs and educators in Bosnia? So in 2011, I went. State Department called again and said, in 2013, would you like to go share your story in Morocco? So I did. And in 2015, State Department called again, and now I'm here in Bulgaria. I wouldn't be here if I didn't raise my hand. I wouldn't have raised my hand if a man on a street corner didn't teach me to never be afraid to talk to anyone. So literally, that man is the reason why I am here today. For me, that just tells me that if you want to change the world, if you want to make a difference in family and community and society, it doesn't start with big acts. It doesn't start with, I could tell you about all kinds of things. Our recent summit at the United Nations, we've done so many things. But none of that really matters if you're not willing to actually connect with people as people, remove all the labels and the judgment, to spend that for just a millisecond, just long enough to actually connect with someone and get to know them as a person. Whether they're the person who, a lot of people do social math in the US, meaning they look and they say, who's the best dressed? Who has the best appearance? Like, I actually do love your suit, by the way. I told you that. But like, who is the best dressed person in the room? Who's the most powerful? Who's the most influential? And you'll watch this, because I used to do this too. I would go into an event, and I would already know who were like the 2 or 3 people I need to connect with. And by the way, every other person needs to connect with them too. And you'll see like a swarm of people just surround them, and they're like, oh, it's the president. Oh my God, please, yeah, selfie, please. Like, it's honestly like that. And the funny thing is, when you do that, what you don't do, the missed opportunity is, you're not really present. And you can't really have a genuine conversation. And I used to be like that, and then a friend of mine who's also a social entrepreneur, Alyssa Pierce, he taught me to actually connect with people. And do this, and actually just listen to what is on your mind and what you care about, and see and ask the question, how can I help you? And see if you can be helpful. And I started doing that more and more, and once you do that over and over again, you realize, again, when you're just a human being connecting with another human being, That's where change starts. And it starts in family, it starts on a very personal level, and then it can ripple out to community, to the globe, like I'm doing here today. That's really mainly the story that I wanted to share. I'm not even, I want to have time for wine and water and, you know, let's focus on the water, more focus on the wine. But I would just share that in all of this experience, what has been really transformative for me is seeing young people as valuable, contributing members of society. Like a friend of mine, his name is Energy Maburutse from Zimbabwe. And when Energy was born, he was born with brittle bone disease, meaning do any of you know what that is? You do, okay, so his bones break easily. When he was born, half of his family said, you're cursed. And for the first 7 years of his life, he had to crawl everywhere. He didn't have a wheelchair. At 7 years old, he got his first wheelchair. And he went to school, and he discovered that his gift was playing the marimba. And so he's a musician, and he gets spotted, and there's a band of people, 8 people who are disabled. They form a band together, and they start going on a tour across Europe and the United States. And because of this, they get featured in an Oscar-winning documentary called Music by Prudence in 2010. He ends up getting a full-ride scholarship to Lynn University in Florida, and his story is so powerful because he shared this with me. He said, well, my inspiration is my mom. And I said, so tell me about your mom. How's she doing? He said, she's not doing well. She has breast cancer. So I asked him about her, and I said, well, how's the treatment going? He said, there's no treatment, Sam. I was like, Energy, what do you mean there's no treatment? What? He said, Sam, we can't afford it. We don't have the funds for it. If it was any of my friends' moms or dads or family members who had cancer, you better believe we would do everything in our power to get support and help. But in his case, coming from Zimbabwe, there was no treatment. He had no resources. And I said, well, why don't you ask the university for help? He said, I would love to, Sam, but they've already done so much, giving me a full scholarship to be here. I can't ask for anything else. So we mobilized, and he led this charge as an entrepreneur himself. And we raised $14,000. And we got his mom chemo and radiation therapy. And she was on this for 5 months, and unfortunately in May she passed away. So she passed away, and we weren't successful in really prolonging her life beyond those 5 months. But was it worth it? Yes. Was it worth the effort? Yes. 110%. I would do it again. I would spend every penny, and I would raise as much as we could again. Because that's what we're here for, to try. It's not always about success and failure. It's about the effort and the intent that matters and being results driven. And that's what we did. And he said this. He said, my mom's my inspiration. I said, why, Energy? He said, when I was a young boy, I was going through a lot of adversity. It was a really tough time in my life. And I remember my mom sat down next to me. She said, Energy, look at this row of mango trees. Now you see, one's tall, one's short, one's fat, one's crooked. But you know something? They all produce the same delicious fruit. He took that as a lesson for his own life. And he has been an absolutely transformative figure. You can also find him on Facebook. He's going to be, I think, one of our generation's great leaders for people who are disabled. He is an absolute champion. And so I leave you with this because this is one of my favorite quotes. It's from the poet Maya Angelou. And she shared this. I've learned that people will forget what you said. Honestly, you're not going to remember most of what I said tonight, and that's okay. I don't expect you to. People will forget what you did. but people will never forget how you made them feel. So just reflect on that in day-to-day life. And I think when I think about social entrepreneurship and the impact we can have, and the impact communities like Summer Work and Travel and the Alumni Association can have over many years. It's really about how you make people feel. If you build trust within an association, within a community, if you make people feel valued and affirm their work and thank them for volunteering their time, they're going to come back again and again and again. They're going to mentor younger people coming up through the program, and it's going to grow. And this is going to be one of the great success stories that you all are leading on, and the embassy and others are supporting on with you. And that's something that I'm really excited to see happen. So thank you so much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We are powered with Twitter already. I checked with our colleagues from Adriana. I think she's tweeting for us tonight. And now we have
20 minutes.
20 minutes, actually 23. So we have to decide on how to spend these 23 minutes. Is there one or two extremely important, extremely short questions that you want to raise with Sam? Extremely short. One? Is there a second one?
Well, there's just one.
Okay.
I think the one is the, yeah.
Which is your shortest and most important question?
Everybody hear me? Yeah. Okay, well, going back to the beginning when you started speaking, you mentioned that in high school you were really shy, but then in university you changed it, and you decided to go out of your comfort zone. But everybody person, what is the thing that makes you change, and how would you do that?
Great.
I'm excited. Just to say that what really moved me to act was desperation. It wasn't anything, it wasn't like I had an epiphany. I watched a great movie about my hometown. It's called Good Will Hunting. I hope some of you get a chance to watch it if you haven't already. And in the movie, Matt Damon has to decide what he's going to do with his life. And he ends up chasing after the woman of his dreams, and that's the direction he goes in. But the point of it was, really, he was in a desperate position. And in the same way, I felt like I hated high school. I didn't want to repeat another 4 years of it. So I reinvented myself. And when I say reinvented, literally, it just meant going up and saying hi to people. So yeah, I wish it was something more inspiring, but sometimes I think it's the hard things that can really mold us if we turn it into something positive and meaningful.
Okay, now all of you will have, each of you will have the opportunity to continue the conversation with Sam and among yourself. The wine is over there. I would like to thank especially to our SWT board, represented here by Maria, Georgi, Christina, Bliznakov, Nikolai Bliznakov. Anybody else? Do I miss anybody? No. And welcome to Terry. This is a young entrepreneur who is coming from the NASA Singularity University, and he has just got the license to represent the Singularity University in Bulgaria. So this is another Bulgarian who is realizing he's in Sofia, on Pošta Slovakia. So, cheers. Have a good one.
So,